From the time I was 5 years old, my grandma and I used to make food over the weekend together. I was proud to help my grandma, even though now I realize I did more helping than actual helping in the kitchen. But in my defense, she was usually cooking ramen, which isn't that hard to make anyway. But to a 5-year-old, it looked incredibly difficult. Every day when I got home from school, I remember my grandma and I used to play dominoes, Uno, and bingo together. My grandma at that time was basically my best friend. I would get home from school, change my PJs, go to her room, and we would play until it was time for me to go to bed. Sometimes even after bedtime, which my mom wasn't too happy about. Now, I know you're wondering, why am I explaining these memories to you, and why should these memories even matter? See, these memories are simple, but they're the first thing that come to my mind when I think of family. They remind me every time I'm in a dark or confusing place that I had someone to count on. She didn't need to do much, but she was there for me, and that to me is what family's all about. Having people you can count on. For you, it may mean remembering times where your mom would tuck you in at night, or remembering when your parents would take you to the park or to the fair and be the best day of your life. Remembering the moments that were calm and good. Those memories made you who you are today, just like how ramen and Uno made me who I am. Unfortunately, though, there are people out there who do not have a family they can count on. Kids can be taken away from their families due to abuse or neglect happening within the home. Let's face it, some people weren't made to be parents. So what happens to the children when the court deems them to be without a reliable family? This is where our topic for today comes into play, our American foster care system. Now, the CPS process is a long and anxious one, especially for the parents who have been falsely accused. The CPS process always starts off with a report being filed. Now, a report can be screened out if abuse or neglect is not shown within the home. But if a report is screened in, an investigation will take place within 24 hours, and how long the investigation lasts usually depends on the state and the severity of the case. Now, once the CPS process starts, other things follow up, like follow-up visits, parent interviews, searching of the home, child interviews, and medical exams of the child. Now, if anything comes up positive for the fact that a neglect or abuse is shown within the home, the child is taken away from their home immediately. So now that we know how a child is taken away from the home, where do they go? According to Child Welfare Information Gateway, foster care is a temporary service provided by the states for kids who could not live with their families. In a child's temporary home, they should be experiencing the love and care that they're missing from their biological family. In a child's temporary home, they should be fed, put through schooling, and loved like any other child in this world. And for most of the foster care system, this is their reality. A successful second chance at family and even an eventual reunion with their biological family. But for most of the foster care system, their experiences could be just as harsh as, if not worse than, what they were going through at home. Today, I'm going to be explaining the problems existing within our American foster care system, why these problems exist and persist, and then I'm going to share with you some solutions that I think could allow these kids the stability that I had when I was growing up. It's become alarmingly clear that the foster care system has failed these kids. According to a Psychology Today article, official statistics shows as many as 28% of kids are abused while in the foster care system. The four main types of abuse, the first one being mental and or psychological, which is wearing down on a person's health and well-being and making them feel like they're going insane. The second would be emotional and or verbal abuse, which is using words as weapons to make sure that that person hurts. I think we should take into account that emotional scars take longer to heal than physical scars do. So the words that are being told to these kids can more than well stick with them into their teen and adult years. The third one being physical abuse, which is punching, hitting, slapping, and or physically restraining someone against their will. And the last one being sexual abuse, which is rape, other forced sexual acts, and using sex as a weapon. All the main types of abuse that I have listed can more than well follow these kids up into their teen and adult years, which can lead to mental illnesses and possible suicide. In a 2010 and widely publicized case, an ex-foster child took his previous foster parent to court on sexual abuse charges and was awarded $30 million in damages. The abuse reportedly happened in the California State foster care system for 5 years in the 90s. The accused foster parent was able to foster multiple kids despite his criminal record of drug use, abuse, and drunk driving incidents. He was eventually found guilty on 9 counts of lewd or lascivious acts against a child on duress, menace, fear, force, and violence, and 7 counts of lewd or lascivious acts against a child under the age of 14. He was convicted and given a 220-year prison sentence. The private foster care family that awarded this man his license also shouldered some of the blame as well for negligent vetting and monitoring of the home. However, official statistics may be severely underestimating the issue since kids are often taught by their circumstances not to speak up about the abuse that we're going through and are conditioned to think that abuse is normal. Now, I know you're wondering, why wouldn't they report the abuse that they were going through? Why wouldn't they tell somebody? Because they fear that the consequences are going to be more severe than actually being able to leave the home that they're in. Think about it. These kids crave stability, a place to belong at. So they'd rather go through abuse every day than risk being relocated every month. I think we should also take into account that with each placement, foster agencies receive money. And if a child is removed from placement, this can cause the agencies to lose commission. For this exact reason, it could cause less than an efficient system of properly monitoring homes. According to Amy, a social worker, it wasn't in their best interest to speak up about the abuse they were going through and risk being relocated where they might be subjected to yet more unknown abuse and have to endure another drastic change. She also explains that in their mind, it was best for them to sit down and keep quiet about the abuse they were going through if they didn't want to leave the home that they were in, even if they were facing abuse every day. Amy was once in foster care, so she knows what goes through a child's mind when put in an abusive and uncomfortable living situation. The economic incentives of the foster care system do not adequately match the social purpose of the institution. Kids who need help deserve better than what the system is willing to give them. Think about it. We claim to be saving these kids from their abusive households, effectively giving them hope and a chance at normalcy, just to put them in another abusive household, effectively crushing their hope and their chance at normalcy. Now, I know this isn't a situation that can be fixed easily, and change also won't happen in a blink of an eye, but I think we could all agree that changes need to be made within the system. I'm going to share some solutions that each and every single one of us can do to directly or indirectly improve the foster care system. 1, we can call action to government for financial disincentives changes. They can remove the financial disincentives that go with reporting abuse. That way, if abuse or neglect is suspected at a child's temporary home, it would be reported immediately without the agency's worry of loss of money. That way, the foster care system will be more about the kid's safety rather than how much an agency is making or losing. 2, we can provide therapy sessions for the kids that have been subjected to abuse within the system. That way, they can open up more about the subject rather than hold it in and have long-lasting mental health issues like depression, anxiety, and PTSD, which can more than well lead to possible suicide and could lead up into their teen adult years, which can be difficult. Lastly, we can all promise to provide stability for the people in our lives because we understand how important it was for us growing when we were growing, that how important stability was for us. I feel very fortunate to have my grandma in my life because she provided me with the stability that I needed to grow as a person. Every child deserves stability and a safe and loving home, even if it means getting to play Uno every day. Thank you.